All right. Deontay Wilder says he wants Andy Ruiz, and he thinks that's a bigger fight for him than Anthony Joshua. Oh, how times have changed. I'm going to talk about that and also debunk some very nonsensical rumors about Deontay Wilder in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you can be notified when we release more videos. Also, I want to say thank you so much to everybody that supports the channel in the two communities, the live stream community, where we have live stream conversations Monday through Friday, start time around 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. And on Sunday, OG Boxing Talk with myself, Blood Boxing, Curtis Anderson, and KQKC. That airs 8 a.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. That's the weekending show. Be there, man. Be there. All right. Deontay Wilder, heavyweight champion of the world, the longest reigning heavyweight champion, the longest reigning champion in boxing, except for maybe by, I think, a couple weeks for some guy way down there at like minimum weight. So pretty much of the known major champions in boxing, he's the longest reigning guy. 9 title defenses, going for his 10th. Been a champion since 2015. If he gets past Luis Ortiz, will have been a 5-year heavyweight title reign, and you can't spit on that no matter how hard you try. He says that he wants that Andy Ruiz is a bigger fight for him than Anthony Joshua. And he is probably right. But the thing that I find that's most interesting is how much times have changed. How in just a period of less than 2 years that Anthony Joshua can be relegated to the number 2 or number 3 biggest fight that Deontay Wilder can make. It used to be that Anthony Joshua was considered the king of the heavyweight division. He was this gigantic, financial juggernaut that was coming to take over America. And then he ducked Deontay Wilder. Said a bunch of stupid stuff about Deontay Wilder, like he was going to freeze Deontay Wilder out. He refused to let Deontay Wilder get into the ring with him to call him out for a fight after I think that was the Joseph Parker fight, right? And if you remember after the Joseph Parker fight, where people like the Sky Sports crew, I can't remember what Johnny Nelson. I remember Johnny Nelson saying, Deontay Wilder's made the biggest mistake in his career. Look at all this press. How could he not come to this event just because he wasn't able to get into the ring? People need to know you. People need to know you. All that nonsense. Well, everybody knows him. Everybody that knows Anthony Joshua knows Deontay Wilder. Everybody that knows Tyson Fury knows Deontay Wilder, and a whole bunch know him that don't know Tyson Fury. Everybody that knows Andy Ruiz know Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder did just fine. On the other hand, Anthony Joshua against Alexander Povetkin fails to sell out the Wembley Stadium. And after he fights Alexander Povetkin and he fails to sell out Wembley Stadium, he no longer fights in the UK. He picks up his bags, comes to the United States along with a bunch of hoopla that everybody could see clear through, and fights Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz drops him, you know how I say it, drops him 4 times. On the 4th time has Anthony Joshua spit out his mouthpiece, and he quits up against the ropes. End of an era. End of the great undefeatable mystique of the future great Hall of Famer Anthony Joshua. We could have skipped to the forefront of all of that stuff, ahead of all that stuff, if he just would have fought Deontay Wilder after Vladimir Klitschko, after the Joseph Parker fight. Had no problem with Anthony Joshua fighting Joseph Parker. That was a unification fight. I never have issues with unification fights. They're cool, no matter what, because it gets closer to undisputed. But after Anthony Joshua loses to Andy Ruiz in the fashion that I like to always like to describe, and not because I don't like Anthony Joshua, but because I got real sick of his fans. I got real sick of the people saying ridiculousness about Deontay Wilder. That just you and having to say the same thing to them over and over and over again, and them acting like they didn't hear it or they don't have the common sense to know that what's being said isn't true. He loses to Andy Ruiz, and now we have a completely new dynamic, an American dynamic that is proven to be extremely lucrative for people in the same situation as Deontay Wilder. That is two American heavyweight champions fighting one another. Typically, those are really big fights. You can say that, especially when you have two champions doing it. From Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, to Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, to Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. These things like that, where you have the two men, the top heavyweights, being both American fighters, Jerry Cooney, Larry Holmes. Those fights tend to become very, very, very lucrative. And you can look through the history of boxing, you see the same thing. When there's two top American heavyweights fight each other, the fight usually does very well, especially when they come from two different, or this doesn't necessarily apply from the heavyweights, but it applies to the smaller weight classes like welterweight, where you have two fighters that fight out of America that come from different demographics. Take, for example, Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao. You have Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Oscar De La Hoya. You have Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Tito Trinidad. You have Pernell Whitaker versus Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., even though I don't know if that was a pay-per-view, but that's just a fight that, man, people really loved. But you get my point. Now, how does that apply to Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz? Well, Andy Ruiz is Mexican-American, and Deontay Wilder is a Black American. And those are the two most active boxing demographics that there are in the United States. And these statistics are not exact because I haven't seen them in a while, so I'm just kind of ballparking them. But this was given in a speech at the beginning of 2018, when Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime, or boxing, vice president of Showtime Boxing and Events, forgive me for not knowing what his title is, he talked about the demographics of boxing and how you have Latin Americans, Latino Americans, and Black Americans. And pretty much you're talking about Mexicans when you're saying that, because that's the vast majority of the population, that they have the largest percentage of avid boxing fans of any demographic in the United States. I think that the way that they broke the numbers down were of all of the people that were surveyed, of the Mexican or Latin American fight fans, half of the people that they polled were fans of sports. 60% of the people who were sports fans consider themselves to be boxing fans. And of that percentage that were boxing fans, over 60% of them were avid boxing fans who you could count on buying fights and actively looked out to watch what was going on. The same thing applied to Black Americans that were polled. 50% of them were sports fans, or us were sports fans. 50% of the sports fans were boxing fans, and 50% of the boxing fans people that identified themselves as boxing fans said that they were avid boxing fans. So when you have a lot of interest, it's like, peanut butter and chocolate make Reese's Pieces, and you get a really big fight. And that is going to be a bigger fight than Anthony Joshua. And why would that be? Because Anthony Joshua is not from the United States. Tyson Fury is not from the United States. It doesn't matter how much Luis Ortiz isn't from the United States. He's from Cuba, and there's a Cuban population. Tyson Fury is British. There's clearly a European population. And Anthony Joshua is from the UK. There's clearly a British Nice / Nigerian population, but not as active as involved as the Mexican population in the United States. And Andy Ruiz, I do believe, would take the fight. And I think that is the way, hopefully that's the way Deontay Wilder will be able to go. Now, you hear a lot of conversations about, and honestly, it could be huge even if they strip the WBO off that. Because I'm sure Eddie Hearn is going to, if Andy Ruiz beats Anthony Joshua in this rematch, you can bet for sure that Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum and those guys are going to try to strip that WBO belt up off of Andy Ruiz. But even if that's the case, if the two of those guys fight, man, it can be an absolutely great fight. And man, I hope that is exactly what takes place. That's a fight that fight fans deserve. Honestly, man, I hope the Andy Ruiz fight against Deontay Wilder happens regardless. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section about the Andy Ruiz Deontay Wilder fight, man. I'm talking about both these guys as often as I can, man, because I think the heavyweight division really is what makes boxing go. And you know, as a big fan of boxing, I want to see the sport go, and I want to see that matchup in the United States. And hopefully, you know, won't ship it off to Saudi Arabia or something. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.